Hello everyone and welcome to another video. Today I want to talk about the most surprising books I've read in 2019. So I have 5 books on this list, so there's all kinds of genres in here, so there's something for everyone. But these books surprised me in one or more ways. I wasn't expecting to like them so much, or I read them despite me promising never to read them, like I did with the first one I'm gonna mention. So it's like all kind of books, and it just tells you that you should never stick to one genre, or you should never stop trying to surprise yourself, because you won't ever know when you will discover a new favorite, or a new favorite genre, or new favorite author, or just enjoy yourself more than you did before. But let's start with the most recent one I read, which is Illuminae by Amie Kaufman and Kristoff. Now, a few years ago, I remember this book was everywhere. Everyone was saying how amazing this is. It is written in this amazing format with different media like texts and Wikipedia type pages and memos and reports. And I was like, no, and it's a sci-fi. It's for young adults. I don't know why I said no, basically, because I was reading a lot of young adult at that time, but maybe it was because it was sci-fi. For some reason, this was one of the YAs I decided not to read. And then I did it anyway, and I loved it. It was so action-packed and so many twists and turns, and there's so much happening. And again, the way it was written in those different, with those different mixed media, I think that's the one which really sealed the deal for me. So this is a YA science fiction with a strong romance element in it. It's not a cringy romance, so don't be afraid of it. So we follow Katie and Ezra, and they live on this mining colony. They just broke up when their colony gets invaded and the planet destroyed and almost everyone killed. The survivors escape on different ships, but the people who invaded them are still in pursuit. So Katie and Ezra end up on different ships. Katie turns into a hacker and Ezra is drafted and becomes a pilot. So they try to get together and they try to figure out what's happening, because on one of these ships there's this deadly plague outbreak, and on top of that the AI, the artificial intelligence who is supposed to help them, kind of turns against them. So this is very, very twist and turny. There's always something happening. You never get bored. Just very action focused, and I loved every single minute of it. The next book on this list, and these are in no particular order, so the next one is The Great Alone by Kristin. This is on this list because this is a historical fiction, and I don't read so many historical fictions now as I used to. And this book reminded me that I'm making a mistake and I should pick some up every once in a while, because it was amazing. So if you check out my 2020 big books reading challenge, you will see that I have some really chunky historical fictions in there. So I'm hoping to get more into historical fiction next year. This is set in the 70s, 80s, and it is set in Alaska. It is about a family of 3. The father is a Vietnam veteran and he suffers from PTSD. Back then, this illness was not diagnosed, so they tried to live with it, I guess. But he turns violent, he has these dark episodes, so he decides at some point to uproot his whole family and seek another way of life. And then he goes to Alaska. This book recounts their time, how they adapt to the Alaskan way of life. This book is in a way a survival within a survival story, because these characters, the mother and the young girl, it's not just the Alaskan winter they have to survive, it's also their father. Because as I said, he suffers from PTSD, and he has these episodes and these periods where he's better and then periods where he's worse. So this is not a story for the faint-hearted. There's a lot of violence and domestic abuse in this one, but it is also a beautiful story. Alaska is so much part of it, and it's beautiful to see how these people become like true Alaskan citizens. They become one with their surroundings. I think it's a beautiful story. And I read The Nightingale by Kristin before, but I think The Great Alone is better. And I was surprised by how much I liked it. And I think for the most part, I liked it because of the amazing characters. The next book on this list is The Pieces by Broder. This one I picked up because it was longlisted for the Women's Prize for Fiction this year. And this is one of those which divides the readers. So you either love it or you hate it. And I think this is particularly because this is written from the perspective of a very unlikable main character. So this is marketed as romance, but I don't think this is a romance. This is literary fiction, this is women's fiction. So in this one we follow Lucy, who is in this kind of dead-end relationship. Her boyfriend cannot commit, and she has these issues with men. She wants to feel loved and desired, and she's really not getting it because her boyfriend is just basically a big asshole. And on the other hand, she's an academic and she's writing this thesis, but she is going nowhere with that because I guess she missed her motivation. She has been writing this thesis for over a decade. So finally, they tell her that if she doesn't hand in the thesis, she's not gonna get funded again. So I guess she loses her job. Then at the same time this is happening, the asshole boyfriend leaves her. So she hits rock bottom when she actually attacks her ex-boyfriend. And then she's forced into therapy. So for the summer, she decides to go to house sit or dog sit for her sister in Los Angeles. And there she ends up in some really ridiculous situations because so she goes to this therapy session and then it's not really working out. And at the same time, she's going on these really awkward Tinder dates, which really cringy and secondhand embarrassment and all that stuff. So it was really a lot to take in reading this book. But then we come over to the second part, which in my personal opinion wasn't as good as the first, because this one deals with this romantic relationship she develops with a merman. I love the themes discussed in this novel. I loved how it discusses how women go to therapy or people go to therapy and it doesn't always work out. I love how it discusses how women feel the need to behave in a certain way or be in a certain way or just be in a relationship all the time, and how hard it is for us to accept when we don't meet the guy or the right guy, or we meet one and he doesn't commit. And I think despite this being awkward and cringy at times, and the main character being so unpleasant, it is also very real and very heartbreaking in a way, even though it is written in a way which is kind of funny. So if you like any of the things I just mentioned here, please pick it up, because this book has so many good things packed into it. And then the last book on this list is Unmarriageable by Soniag Kamal. So I read this book for Jane Austen July, where together with some other Jane Austen books, I have read 3 Pride and Prejudice retellings, and this was my favorite. So I'll leave that video somewhere linked for you if you want to check it out. But this one is a faithful retelling of Pride and Prejudice, and it is set in modern-day Pakistan. The author herself says that society and the marriage market in Pakistan is so similar to that of Jane Austen's time that she didn't really need to change that plot so much, and the setting and the characters could really make this book stand out and make it a bit unique in a way. So yes, this is a faithful retelling of Pride and Prejudice, and it was amazing. I was not bored 1 second, even though I knew every plot point, I knew every single character. Soniag Kamal captures Jane Austen's wit and humor perfectly, and this translates well into modern Pakistan, where mothers are go a bit crazy with their children getting married, and there's just ridiculous things happening that you think this has no place in real life. This must come from a movie. this must be made up, but apparently it's not. Despite it being a faithful retelling, the characters are given a modern twist. So for example, Elizabeth Bennet is a spinster in here, but it is her own choice. She doesn't want to get married. She's a teacher, she loves her job. She is quite modern for a woman in Pakistan because 1, she doesn't get married, 2, she's a teacher, she earns her own living, 3, she's a feminist. So it's great that in the beginning we get this insight of her trying to teach her students feminism. So I think there are a lot of these small elements with these characters and this plot which makes this book a great one. So if you love Jane Austen, if you love Pride and Prejudice, try this retelling. I think you will definitely enjoy it. And lastly, I want to talk about not a book but a genre. So this year, for the first time, I read mystery thrillers. I'm not saying I never read mystery thrillers before, but I think I read one in like 5 years, and I always thought that this is not a genre for me because in my mind, mystery thriller was always some sort of book where a detective investigates or there's some sort of a police investigation or something like that, and oh boy, was I wrong. I still don't like those type of books, but what I read, it made me realize that I missed out based on this stupid preconception I had of this genre. So I read for the first time mystery thrillers in October, and I think I read like 7 that month. And I read them so fast, like consecutively, and I just couldn't get enough. They were so entertaining and so fresh and new. So even though people were saying of these books, well, I saw this twist coming from the start, but me being so new to mystery thrillers, everything was like, wow, new, and I was shocked at every turn. So I think this year has taught me a lesson that you should never settle for the books or for the genres you like and you feel comfortable with. You should always explore and try new books or try new genres because you might be surprised. Let me know which is the book which surprised you most this year. I think I'm happy that I ventured out of my comfort zone and picked up so many different books because I really had a great time. And I cannot say that my reading year has been one-sided or boring at all. So I guess this is where I will leave you for now. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Goodbye.